Morning everybody, how are y'all doing today? I'm doing great because you know what? The salt surrounding Redfall being 30 FPS and the damage control from Xbox fanboys is not seeming to come to an end anytime soon. Although to be honest, it might be against my better judgment that I'm making this video because the last one I did 2 days ago did not go the best, or at least it hasn't been received as well as my other recent videos. But despite that, we're going to be talking about this video today, which I'm going to be completely honest, I don't think I could explain this if I tried. The guy basically admits that 60 is way better than 30 and then says that they're right to release the game without a 60 FPS mode at launch. I don't know, it's really confusing. So yeah, without further ado, let's just go ahead and get right into this. Oh, and one more thing, I'm gonna be skipping like the first minute or so because he's just recapping the entire drama, like, oh, people are mad about 30 FPS and whatever. All right, now let's get into this.
So what's the big deal? You know, a game being released at 30 FPS. Back in the day, back in like the PS3 days, Xbox 360 days, you were lucky if a game ran at 30 FPS. Most of those games on those particular consoles, the frame rate absolutely dogged. It was like 20, 22, 23, 24, 25. Not always, but like some games have some serious frame rate pacing issues, especially on the PS3. However, if you can recall back to those days, back to those times, you guys weren't complaining about that whatsoever, barely.
Yep, guys, that's right. You know, because we had something one way, we can't expect anything better in the future. You know how cars used to not have great gas mileage and now they have much better gas mileage? Well, if a company releases a car with really bad gas mileage nowadays, we can't complain about it because it used to be that way. That's not how this works, dude. Technology gets better, our standards go up, and if our standards are not met, we complain. Especially when Microsoft promised that 60 FPS would be the standard and up to 120 would be possible. Back then, 30 FPS was standard, so while people may have had a problem with it, of course there's not really a reason to complain about it. But nowadays, 60 is supposed to be the standard, according to Microsoft themselves, and yet they cannot release their own first-party game, which doesn't even look visually super impressive at 60 on launch. It's absolutely unacceptable.
You guys were not complaining about it. You guys didn't complain about you know, the frames per second on PS2. You didn't complain about it on the original Xbox. You didn't complain about it on the Dreamcast. You just keep going back and back and back and back and back. Now we have these modern consoles which have an option in most games for performance mode where you can run it at 60 FPS. And usually you've got a quality mode which will run the game at 30 FPS. However, you're getting 4K textures, you might be getting some ray tracing effects, etc., etc., etc.
Okay, so you just explained that a lot of games nowadays come with a 60 FPS and a 30 FPS option, and yet you still cannot understand why people are not happy that this game will not have this very basic feature at launch. The only time in the past that I can recall that 60 FPS has had to be patched in is when last-gen games have gotten their next-gen upgrades. But I cannot think of a single game this gen that has had to have a 60 FPS mode patched in later. So just remember that he acknowledges this right now because it's going to be very important throughout the rest of the video.
So you gamers have been absolutely spoiled because what happens is when you play a lot of these games, and I've talked about it a bit on this channel, when you're playing a game at 30 FPS and then you flip on performance mode and you see how much smoother it is at 60 FPS, in my eyes, I find it hard to go back to 30 FPS. I find it really hard to do that. Even if the graphical fidelity has been somewhat limited on performance mode, I'll take performance mode any day of the week.
And now he's admitting that he would much rather have performance mode and he would take it over 30 FPS any day of the week. Just remember all of this throughout the rest of the video. Even this guy would prefer 60 FPS, and yet he's going to spend the rest of this video shilling for Microsoft and explaining why it's okay for them to have to patch in a 60 FPS mode later on, instead of actually waiting for the game to be completed before it gets released.
So the issue with that is, if you didn't have the option for performance mode, it may not be as apparent. You got to remember, a lot of us played these older games on the Xbox One, PS4. Again, played a lot of these games on the Xbox 360 at 30 FPS, and we didn't even think about it because your eyes are trained to adjust to the 30 FPS. It's only once you jump from 30 FPS to 60 in real time and jump back to 30 that you see how jarring it is.
Yes, and it being such a big difference is why this is a big deal. I think most people would probably prefer a smoother experience even if they have to sacrifice a bit of resolution and graphics. I know I sure as hell would. And let's just say hypothetically that most people actually preferred 30 FPS but it looked better. Even still, you shouldn't be okay with the game launching incomplete. It was like with Halo Infinite Co-op. It's like, okay, you're probably not going to use it, but still, why are you okay with getting less for your money even though it was promised to you? And before anybody says, oh, they never promised a performance mode, all the trailers were in 60 FPS, and Microsoft said 60 was the standard. No matter how you try to spin or argue this, it is not acceptable.
So, a lot of the gamers out there, now this is, again, very niche. This isn't the rest of the gamers out there in the world that don't watch YouTube. This is just a small group of YouTubers and social media influencers and people in the retro community that are making a big deal about this when it's actually much ado about nothing. If anything, Arcane Studios should be commended for deciding to release this game at a capped 30 FPS.
Are you kidding me? This is why I said, remember all that stuff he said before. Because he said, oh, I prefer 60 and I'll take it any day. And now they should be commended for not adding 60 FPS on launch. Yes, they should be commended for charging extra money for a game compared to their previous titles. And then removing a very basic feature that they said would be standard. But don't worry, guys, we're gonna add it back in later. No, you release the game when it is finished. Do not charge people full price and then deliver them what should be there at launch later on. And if you're going to cut content and add it in later, then don't charge full price at release. God, my guy, how much did Arcane pay you to make this video? And how much copium did you buy with it?
You know, if they need a little bit more time to make sure that this game runs appropriately at 60 FPS, so be it. They've already announced that the game will run at 60 FPS at some point in the near future. Big freaking deal. I don't know why people are crying about this. A lot of you guys really need to go outside and touch grass, literally. You need to walk outside, go outside, spend the day outside, and stop spending so much time on social media. It's ridiculous.
Says the guy who took time out of his day to sit down for 10 minutes and make a video defending the poor defenseless trillion-dollar company who wants to charge people $70 for a game that will not have a feature at launch that they said would be standard. Yes, this is a big deal, especially when Microsoft was the one hyping up the 60 FPS being standard. And it's so ironic that he's saying, oh, why are you guys crying about this? Dude, literally earlier in this video, you said you would prefer 60 over 30. And again, I need to reemphasize, they are charging $70 for this and cannot be bothered to have 60 FPS on launch. It's a massive middle finger to their fan base. But you know what? Since this guy wants me to touch grass so bad, let's go ahead and do it.
Mission accomplished. Good work.
A lot of you guys that are complaining about this are, you know, the same people that are probably not even interested in this game. Now, the game looks incredible. You know, it may even be a day one purchase for me. I don't know yet. It looks really good. And again, I've never had a problem playing a game at 30 FPS. A lot of the first-person shooters back in the day were capped at 30 FPS, okay? It doesn't mean the game's unplayable. Oh, God, you guys, it's just like you're out to lunch. Seriously, you're out to lunch.
Okay, first off, Redfall does not look incredible. It looks decent. I'm still gonna try it, but only because it's on Game Pass. And also, I love how now you're saying, oh, I don't have a problem playing at 30 FPS, when earlier you said you would prefer 60. And yes, being capped at 30 FPS does not make a game unplayable, but 60 FPS is a way nicer experience than 30. And again, Microsoft said it would be standard. This is not 2005 with the 360 and PS3. This is 2023. We are on high-end systems and 30 FPS is not as acceptable anymore. Imagine saying we shouldn't expect better as technology improves. But just wait, guys, this is about to get a whole lot worse, because it's time to get into the realm of virtue signaling.
It's funny. we have all this stuff going on in the world. You know, the economy's gone to shit. There's a war going on. There's people homeless, starving in the streets. There's a lot of people out there that have real world situations going on, okay? Whereas if you told them about your little problem about Redfall running at 30 FPS, okay? If that was only their only problem that they had to deal with, they would be taking that in a heartbeat over what they're dealing with. But you guys that are living with your first world problems and you're sitting there crying about a game that you're probably not even interested in playing because the game's capped at 30 FPS and you're jumping on a social media bandwagon. Oh, that Arcane Studios, how dare they not give me my 60 FPS?
Yep, that's right, guys. It's time for a victim contest. If my problem isn't as serious as yours, then I can't have a problem. I mean, if we're going by this logic, my guy, then you have quite a few videos to delete. Remember that video I covered a few months ago where you cried about getting attacked by the Steam Deck fan base? That sounds like a first world problem to me, my guy. People are harassing you on the internet. You're lucky to have access to the internet at all. You can't complain about that. I'm not denying that other people have more serious issues out there, but other people having more serious issues does not invalidate ours. And also, hear me out, maybe we have first world problems because we live in a first world country. Just some food for thought.
You guys just need to pump the brakes just a little bit, okay? Is the game unplayable at 30 FPS? No. Dreamcast guy acts like it's a slideshow at 30 FPS. Okay, sure, Dreamcast guy. Sure. No, the game will be serviceable at 30 FPS. And if you're not happy with 30 FPS, hey, you can wait until the 60 FPS patch is released, or you can play it on PC.
Well, hear me out. Not everybody can afford or has a PC, and also people shouldn't be forced to wait for something that should be there at launch. If they weren't able to get the 60 FPS mode out in time, they should have announced a later date for the game's release. Also, just because a game is playable doesn't mean it's fun or enjoyable. Technically, 720p 20 FPS is playable, so why aren't we okay with companies releasing that? The game still functions, so what's the problem? It's such a dumb argument. First, virtue signaling saying that, hey guys, you know this company that expects you to pay $70 for a product? You can't be upset about that because other people have worse problems than you. And now it's, oh guys, just wait, please, 30 FPS is playable, so why is it an issue? Like, shut the actual up.
It's not really a big deal. The Xbox ecosystem, Xbox, is not just the console anymore, okay? Xbox, the brand, is the console and the PC. So if you want to play it at 60 FPS, go play it on the PC, okay? Otherwise, wait a couple of weeks and the patch will be released. You guys are crying about nothing. The game is going to run buttery smooth at 30 FPS, okay? That's the key thing. They want to get the game out the door, make sure that it's running appropriately, okay?
What is this guy talking about? Buttery smooth 30 FPS is an oxymoron. The only time 30 FPS could even look slightly smooth is if you have motion blur cranked up to the max. And here's my question. You said they wanted to make sure it's running properly before they get it out, so then why don't they delay it until the 60 FPS mode is ready? And also, just because Xbox isn't just about the consoles and it's also about PC now, that does not excuse the fact that the consoles only get 30 FPS. The consoles are more than capable of running the game at 60. Also, nobody's crying about anything. People aren't happy because they're not getting what they were promised. I don't care if it's going to be patched in later. It should be there at launch. They're not going to have this feature at launch and still charge full price for the game. The game is going to be incomplete and still cost $70. That is not acceptable. Again, I have to ask, how much did Arcane and Microsoft pay you to make this video?
They've already delayed this game once or twice before, okay? Arcane can't delay this game again, okay? You guys don't seem to understand. There's a lot of shareholders at play, people that own stocks in the company, that are expecting a solid Q2 result, okay? And they can't afford to delay this game. If the game is ready to rock at 30 FPS, okay, and everything else is ready to go, release the game at 30 FPS on the Xbox, and then at a later date drop the 60 FPS mode, okay?
Or how about this? Don't announce a release date that you can't hold yourself to. So many companies do this now. They'll announce a date that they can't stick to and then they delay it. And then a lot of the times, like we're seeing here, even after the delay, the game is still not ready to go. If Microsoft doesn't want their shareholders to be upset, then they shouldn't have announced something they couldn't hold themselves to. They made a promise they could not keep, and now the consumer has to suffer the consequences. The consumer has to be punished because Microsoft screwed up. But you know what, dude? You're absolutely right. Nothing pleases shareholders more than when the company that they have stocks in makes their consumers mad because they screwed up. I'm sure as a shareholder, that's exactly what you want.
There's no point releasing the game at 30 FPS and 60 FPS if there's issues with the 60 FPS mode in particular, because that's just going to draw even more negativity. But you guys don't seem to want to look at it like that. You guys just want to, just for the sake of clicks, you want to go out there and complain and cry about how it's not running at 60 FPS. Guys, think about it. Think about it from a 360-degree perspective, okay? The game is ready to rock at 30 FPS. Just let Arcane release the game like that, okay? And if you don't want to enjoy the game, don't play it. If it's on Game Pass, you've got an option. Again, you can go on PC and play it.
The classic, if you don't like it, don't play it argument. The problem is people want to play it, and they want to do so at 60 FPS, which they cannot do if they're on Xbox. And hear me out, if the 60 FPS mode isn't ready to go, then delay the game until it is ready to go. You don't sell somebody a car and then say, oh, by the way, the AC isn't working yet, we're gonna ship it to you in a few months. That's not how this works. You release the game complete or you get backlash for it. Stop defending the trillion-dollar company. When even Griffin Gaming is calling out a company for releasing an unfinished game, you know they screwed up.
Or you can wait a couple of weeks or a couple of months, however long it takes for the patch to be released for 60 FPS. But again, I just want to stress, when you hear these people on social media complaining about Redfall, and again, the whole social media thing these days, it's all about a rain cloud, okay? It's just a wet blanket of negativity. Nobody says anything positive anymore. It's always negativity, okay? Negativity sells. So when you see somebody bitching and moaning and crying about Redfall, just remember it's just a small niche group of people on Twitter and YouTube that are complaining about this, okay?
That's right, guys. People are only mad for the sake of being mad. They don't have any legitimate criticisms. Everybody on social media is just negative, which I guess is kind of true, but, you know, this is not being negative for the sake of being negative. But yeah, that was pretty much the end of the video. The last 30 seconds are just him praising Arcane and saying, oh, it looks incredible. I can't wait to try it. Another Microsoft W, yes, sir. And yeah, he just ends the video doing what he does best, fanboying for them. But yeah, basically what we learned today, guys, is please just don't defend companies' stupid decisions. Like, people call me an Xbox fanboy sometimes because I like to talk about PlayStation fanboys so much, but I'm really not. I will happily call out Microsoft when they screw up, as I hope this video has proved. So yeah, anyway guys, with that being said, I want to thank you all so much for watching. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't like it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I will catch you all next time.